Hey folks, it's your man Sabado back again. Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you've been here before and if this is your first time, welcome to the channel. This is just a channel where I talk about my story as it relates to my journey after retiring at the age of 51. And I do recognize that retirement isn't for everybody, but what is for everybody is living your best life. So it's my hope that you could take some of these perspectives that I share with you and use those to help you shape the life that you want to live. It's not that I know better than anybody else, but I got to where I am by listening to a shared set of perspectives from some unconventional folks. I'm from the old school. YouTube to me is still a bit unconventional, so I might be one of those unconventional folks that you listen to. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Number one, retirement is not like a vacation. You'll hear a lot that vacation or that retirement is like a vacation because you get up and you do whatever it is you want to do. But the reality of it is you still have to live your life and you have to run the business of your own life. What you hear a lot of retirees tell you is they don't understand how they had the time for everything they were able to do when they were working. I don't know how I had the time. I don't know. I think I mentioned to you before we're going to be selling our RV. And one of the things I had to do yesterday was take it down so it could get detailed. Well, that was an all-day thing because I had to get it out of storage, take it down to the guy. Then my mother-in-law lives next door. Then I had to catch a train back home. So I ended up leaving the house yesterday morning about 7:30 in the morning and not getting home until about 5 o'clock in the evening after all of that. So, but again, that's just in managing the business of my own life that I would not have had time to do if I were still working. The second one is that, and this is a popular misnomer, that you're only retired from work. And when you retire, you don't just retire from work. You retire from the whole gamut of things that surround work. The shopping habits that you had, the friends in a lot of cases that you had at work. I'll tell you, I'm here to tell you that after about a year, all the people that you had accumulated around you, as you were working, they're going to fall off. And they're not going to fall off because you're a bad person or because they don't like you. They're just going to fall off because you don't do things now that are relevant to them. And so you'll be forced to find new friends. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Because if there's two ways to look at life. You can either focus on the past, which I believe causes depression, or if you focus too far in the future, that creates anxiety. And so my belief is that I find a healthy balance in the here and now. And the healthy balance in the here and now isn't going to take into account things that were happening a year ago, 2 years ago, or things that were happening at work. And so if I want to relate to people, I'm going to have to relate to people in the current now. And so I have to retire from all of those habits that I had, not necessarily all of them, but a large proportion of those habits that I used to have in order to make room for my new reality. Number three, there's a general thought that once you retire, you're going to have this bucket list of things that you're going to be able to do. And one of the things I think I've mentioned to you is my wife and I like to travel. So we're going to Alaska in a few weeks. So we go to Alaska. A couple years ago, we went to the Panama Canal. There's a few other trips that we want to make, some road trips and such. And the reality is if all I did in my retirement was focus on my bucket list, then I would have the issue of trying to figure out what do I do when everything on the list is covered. So if I go to Mount Kilimanjaro and I climb Mount Everest and I go to the Panama Canal and I go to Alaska and I cruise everywhere I want to go, I visit some African countries. Now the question becomes, once I've done all that, what do I do with it now? Then I have to figure out a new plan. And so I think the idea is really having the right perspective going in and understanding that there's a lot more to retirement than the bucket list. I think it's good to have some things to do when you're retired, but I do think you have to make sure that you have something beyond that because you'll get through that list. If you're retired, particularly if you're retired early because you knew how to get things done. So as soon as you take that same thought process and put it in your life, well, guess what happens? Those things that are on your bucket list, they just become a punch list, and you just keep going down the line. But you've got to have more than that. The next one is, the conversation about loneliness is real. A lot of people build their identities around work. And I have friends, or my wife and I were talking about people that we know that they built their identities around work, and then when they retired, they fell apart because they didn't have the networks and they hadn't been used to meeting people. A lot of times when you're in high level positions, you have a social network that's automatic. A lot of times, if you're an individual contributor, you could go in and you could just do your work, and then you walk in, you leave, and you could be anonymous Joe or Joanne citizen. But when you're a leader in an organization, you have a team of people that you're usually responsible for guiding and leading and motivating. And so those are going to be people that are generally always going to give a little bit of deference to you because you're their leader. But it's also not based on who you are, it's based on the position that you hold. So as soon as you step out of that position, a lot of times, a lot of what came with it will tend to go. I joked around with a friend of mine the other day saying, I don't get free basketball games in the suite anymore. And he said, why? I said, because I retired, because we had a vendor that would do a lot of that kind of stuff. And that was the way it was through most of my career. So for me, it was normal. But over time, I've started to see how that's gone away. And you've just got to be ready for that. I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, you should never rely on people giving you stuff anyway. But just understand that it's a reality and that things are going to change. So it's not that you're necessarily not going to go to the game, but things will change. And if you're ready for it, you can deal with it. And if you're ready for it ahead of time, then you could be proactive in dealing with it. The next one is, within a year, you're going to lose touch with most of the people that you communicated with when you were working. I mean, I built some really good contacts and communications, but again, without that common interest, there's just nothing to talk about. I could call somebody, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. What's going on? Then I delve right back into what happened when I was at work. Now, there are some situations that I have some friends that I did work with, but when you look at the totality of the universe of people that I interacted with when I was working and how many of those people stuck, the number's small. And if the number's large for you, I would say that's great, assuming that you have a large number of people around you, not because you're a people pleaser, but just because you have that type of gravitas and people want to be around you, and you have the capacity to handle having a large social network. I don't have the capacity to have 1 million friends. So it's like I always say, my application period is closed. We'll keep your application on file in the event that something opens up. And in the meantime, we'll hire some per diem employees so that way we can continue to build connections and get to know each other. The next one is, retirement doesn't cost you as much as you think it does. One of the biggest misnomers is that you're going to need the same amount of money in retirement that you do when you're working. And the fact of the matter is it's not. I was just thinking the other day, with all this economic stuff that's going on, and looking at my investments and looking at retirement and looking at what we need on a monthly basis, it really forced me to go back and take a look at the budget that we created a couple of years ago. And we revised it last year, but we didn't go through a wholesale revision. So I really had to take a deep dive. And I realized that we were fine. The money that we have coming in is enough to cover our expenses because we kept our expenses low and we continue to keep our expenses low. But if you take a look at what we were making when we were working, it was significantly more than we have coming in now. So I say all that to say, not just that, retirement is less expensive, but you could, if you really go back and manage your expenses, what you'll find is over time, you may have the opportunity to minimize some of those expenses. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to minimize them all, but you'll have a better handle and control of them. And so now with the potential of us having to stay in the house for a while, or just there being economic unrest, instability, if we stayed in the house, we would be able to cover our house bills no problem with a very minimal amount. So it puts us in a good spot. But again, it's just making sure that you manage your costs, which leads to the next one, which is live within your means. You got to learn how to live within your means and enjoy it. You guys see me all the time. Every week, I come on, and I'm usually wearing a t-shirt. So today I got my Miller High Life t-shirt on, and I think a couple weeks ago I had on my Mr. Rogers shirt, and I have my Orange Crust t-shirt and all that. And if you want to see my shirts, I could adjust the camera angle so you can see the shirts, but nobody's ever said anything, so I'm not going to go down that path because I don't want to create a distraction. But one of the reasons I wear these t-shirts is because I already own them. Why go out and buy new clothes to impress people that I don't know? I'd rather impress you with having cool t-shirts that fit. But no, on a serious note, it's just living within the means. If I'm going to spend money, I want to spend money on housing and food. So I want to make sure my housing is legit. I want to make sure my food, that I can eat what I want to eat. So then anything on top of that are extras, and that really brings my means down significantly. And the ironic thing is my biggest expense last year on stuff besides ordering out and restaurants and food and stuff was stuff going to this YouTube channel, getting the microphone and getting a tripod and lights, and just to make sure that I provide an excellent experience for you first time every time. But that's all one-time costs, not ongoing expenses. And so you have to learn to live within your means and then stay within them. And I do recognize that for some of us, living within our means means that we're broke, and there's nothing wrong with that, but just we understand that that's true. And so the question is, what do we do with it now that we know that that's the case? The next one is you have to understand your pace of life will slow down. I used to be known as the person that could get a lot of things done. I'll tell you a funny story. I was at an event with one of the hospital executives, another hospital executive I used to work with, and so I wanted to introduce him to the number 2 guy at Kaiser Permanente because I know the guy. And so I went up to him and I introduced him. And it was funny because when I introduced him, the one thing he said is, Sabado. He's like, oh yeah, that guy's a whiz when it comes to negotiating and getting deals with the union. And I never knew that he thought that, but when I look back, I realized that I was able to get a lot done. And I was known as the guy that can get a lot done. And even if something seemed impossible, I think sometimes in my career, there were times when people gave me impossible tasks, hoping that I failed, and then I kicked the shit out of them with an incredible result. I think that's what David Goggins calls taking souls, and that's what I used to do consistently throughout my career. So then on the other side of the coin, people that don't have the immediate viewpoint into the fact that somebody was trying to sabotage me, the next level up will say, wow, that person really got that done, and we wanted to get that done sooner or years ago, and nobody was able to do it. Then all of a sudden Sabado comes along and gets it done. But now I don't do that. Now I'm excited if I get one thing done a day. Yesterday, the big thing was I want to get the RV out of storage, clean out the RV, and then get it to the detailer. I did it. Today, the big one was getting the stuff out of the garage that we took out of the RV, put some clothes away, and just start cleaning out the garage. And so we're working on that. And also putting together this video. It's really important to me. You may not know this, but it's really important to me to put together these videos for you, because I think there's a set of experiences that I have that are unique to me. And even other people that retired early may have had different experiences. And the more that we build community, not just with people that have retired early, but we build community with people that want to retire early, or people that see another person that's doing something they might want to do, and then having a direct line to them. I always have this thing, my wife laughs at me, but I always say, I know a guy. So if you want to sell a car, I know a guy. You want to buy an RV, I know a guy. You want X, Y, Z, I know a guy. Because I always make it a point to try to know people that do things that are helpful. Well, I'm that guy when it comes to, I'm 40 years old and I'm thinking about retiring. What can I do? Well, I know a guy. This guy Sabado is on, and sometimes I get people will reach out directly and ask questions, and I don't charge for that. I do enjoy coaching people that want to find a better way about it. And the reality is I was able to make coming from being an adopted kid from the hood to being a chief executive and retired. It's kind of a big swing, and it's not because I'm super smart. It's not because I know everything. It's not because I have all the answers. It's because I'm willing to go in there and work my ass off in order to get to the result. And I think that's the key, is that, it's what they say, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, or as they say, labor under correct knowledge. And so part of what I'm doing is, if you're going to do the work to try to get yourself to where you want to be, I want to make sure you have some of that correct knowledge. And the best knowledge I have is the knowledge that I experienced, not something I read in a book. but the stuff that I actually experienced, so that way I could share it with you, so then you could research it, put it into your own context, and then get yourself to where it is that you want to be. But ultimately, your pace of life is gonna slow down. You're gonna have time to think about things. I always say I always have capacity now. When I talk to my friends, I'm able to give them really, really deep, thoughtful perspectives as opposed to moving through things really quickly because I didn't have the time. So now I have the time, and it's a beautiful thing. You want to also understand that there's financial independence and there's retirement. So, and this is an important distinction in the Instagram generation, at least what I call it. In the Instagram generation, everybody wants immediate gratification. So they see something, they want it. They see somebody that's retired, they want it. They see somebody with a nice house, they want it. It used to be like when I was a kid, we'd watch Yo MTV Cribs and just say, "Oh man, that's pretty cool that Ice-T's got this big old house," and that was it. Now it's I'm gonna go get that, and I'm gonna have that, and I have the expectation that I'm gonna be able to manifest that. And look, I'm not here to diss anybody, but that whole idea of things manifest after you've done the work. So forget manifesting, get out there and do the work. And I'm somebody that can help you do that. But my point being that you've got financial independence and you've got retirement, and you could retire anytime. You can quit your job tomorrow and say, you know what, I retire. But the key is, do you have the income to be financially independent? So are you able to continue to pay for your lifestyle? Because if you quit your job and retire and don't have a way of making money, then you just did something stupid. But if you have it and you're able to fund your lifestyle, even at a lower level, now you've retired. So as you approach the idea of retirement and financial independence, make sure you look at those things separately, because they're two totally different things that are connected but need to be looked at differently, because you've got to have a financial plan if your goal is to not go back into work. If you don't, then you'll do it for a little while, and then you'll end up changing course. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is, and this is kind of a bonus, and this is something that I dealt with, and I kind of deal with, is that if you do retire, if you are retired, if you're trying to figure out what you would do when you retire, consider volunteering. Consider going out and taking the skills that you have and using those skills as a way to help others. I know how to get things done. I finished a master gardening program. Oh, I finished that next week. I've done I've got my substitute teaching credential, so I go out and I teach I could teach at the schools, and I'm going to probably start doing that in the fall. But I want to get through the master gardening program. But find things that you enjoy doing, whether it's like I like talking, so I got a YouTube channel. I like dealing with people. But find something that you like to do and see if there's an opportunity to volunteer. There's a lot of people that need our help, and we want to be able to help them doing things that come natural to us. And not everything comes natural to everybody. So, so consider volunteering. Plus, you feel good doing it. So that's those are the things that I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, because when I get people all the time, and it's in my personal circles that come, hey, it's the retired guy, hey, Sabado, the retired guy, and it's like, yeah, that's cool. It's like, isn't it great not to have to do anything? It's like, well, hold on a second, cowboy, I got to do a whole bunch of stuff. I got to do a whole bunch of things. It's just I don't have to not do things because I have other things to do. I can organize my life. And so I suppose there are some people that just sit on the couch all day, but I'm just not that guy. And I would imagine you'd be able to tell from my svelte figure, but consider you can only see a checkup from the neck up. You don't get all that. But anyway, so that was all I wanted to share today. I wanted to come to you fairly quickly, give you a couple of pieces of information, because retirement is not all that people say it is. It's not any worse. And it could be a lot better for a lot of people if they just take some of these things into account. So those are 11 things that they don't tell you about retirement. I hope you found it useful. And if you did, please consider subscribing. Helps the channel, helps me continue to bring you the content. And if you have any questions about anything, leave them in the comments. I respond to almost every comment, and I try to put some thought behind them. So on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.